This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back for another edition of the Onside Kick right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything in the NFL and everything with the NFL. Kind of redundant right there, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. This week, got a jam-packed show talking about Lamar Jackson, and then we are finishing up our kicker rankings for fantasy football. We're actually finishing up our fantasy rankings by doing kickers. We're not finishing up the kicker. Could you imagine if we did like 4 weeks of kicker rankings?
Rank the kickers and go through it. Very detailed.
We're going to rank the NFL kickers, and we're going to rank every single college kicker.
That'd be fun.
Every single, even like D2, D3, NAIA, we'll rank them all. We're going all through the kickers, but no, we will rank our top 16 kickers later in the show. Before we get into everything, a little bit of housekeeping right here at the beginning. Number one, if you want to help support the channel, want to be a guest on the show, make sure to check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. Also, make sure to check our store link down below in the description where you can get an MVP t-shirt and rep the MVP brand. Also, make sure to go to mostvaluablepodcast.com, hit that bookmark. That's where you're going to catch everything for MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, make sure to go on Apple Podcasts and iTunes and give the not the Primetime Podcast, the Onside.
But you can do it for them,
You can
too.
do it for the Primetime Podcast as well. Give it a 5-star rating and tell everyone why they should listen to the podcast. It's already been a long night, and we're not even fully done as we've got another podcast to pre-record after this one, Mark. But what we're diving into first, before we get into our kicker rankings, is we're going to talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson. And the reason why is it seems like at the OTAs or the mini camps or whatever practices are going on for the Ravens right now, he is shocking Baltimore. And just to read a quote, this one is from Raven wide receiver Chris Morris. After the first day of the mandatory minicamp, he said, "Every time he runs, I'm in awe because most people, especially a quarterback, can't move the way he does. So you just know that this year he's going to make some plays for sure." Then also you had CJ Mosley, who's a Pro Bowl linebacker for the Ravens, say, "It's very creative. We don't know it's going to work until we put it out here. It's been given to us some problems on some of the plays. It's cool just to see the way we can swing things up with quarterbacks. As long as we don't have Joe Flacco doing too much running, that's really all that matters." So I want to ask you the key question.
Yep.
They've got Joe Flacco.
They do.
They now have Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
When is Lamar Jackson going to take the starting job away from Joe Flacco?
Well, I think there's an interesting part here because they obviously love him. They've loved him from the very start. The first thing they said about it, this guy's amazing.
There's a reason you traded up to get that 5th-year option on the guy.
Exactly. So some people might say, well, they want that 5th-year option because they want years. They want an option there so that way they don't have to start him now. They can start him in 2-3 years, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that they love this guy too much. Joe Flacco is not a bad quarterback, but he's just an average quarterback. He has a Super Bowl ring that his defense was amazing for, and that was a big part of it. Although he did turn it on, for sure. He was looking great that time, but he hasn't lived up to that big contract that he got. I think that he will probably be losing this starting job later in the season. I don't think it's an early thing. I think he's a later thing, but I will say one thing. I fully expect, because of a certain quote from John Harbaugh saying that using 2 quarterbacks at the same time gets the creative juices flowing. This idea here makes me think week 1 against the Bills. I fully expect Lamar Jackson to show up on that field at some point in time, and all of a sudden, you know, it's not a wildcat, obviously. He's not a wide receiver or anything like that.
Do you think he'll play somewhere else, though? Because there is another ESPN story saying that Lamar Jackson has been lining up at other positions during Ravens
practices. This is what I could
well.
expect. I kind of expect him to show up at wide receiver, play a down or two or something like that, and then this is where the trick comes in. He's at wide receiver. Joe Flacco's there. This is when you do the Wildcat. You switch the two guys, and all of a sudden everybody's freaking out. Lamar Jackson designed to run or something like that, or maybe a run-pass option, and then he gets to shine. The thing is, some little moment like that's going to stick out in people's heads.
And I don't think necessarily because the big thing that people are going to see is they're going to see this and go, whoa, wait, he said you don't want to play wide receiver. Why is he lining up in our position? You know what?
His coach is telling him to.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Not necessarily all right, you're going to be a wide receiver. I'm thinking more importantly, all right, we're going to line you up in the slot. What's going to happen is you're going to start in motion. Joe Flacco's going to hike it. What's going to happen then, it's an option read at that point. So basically what's going to happen is Joe Flacco has a decision to make. Based off of what the defense is giving him, if the middle's open up, I'm going to hand it to the running back running right up the middle, or I give it to Joe Flacco, or I give it to Lamar Jackson running a sweep route, give it to him, and then basically at that point, it becomes a Lamar Jackson on a bootleg, receivers down the field. All right, read the defense. If you want to run it, go ahead. If not, go ahead and pass it.
I fully expect to have
kind of like how the Steelers used to use Antoine Randall and have him throw some passes.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it happen a couple times with Chicago with whether it's a punter, whether it's Tariq Cohen, the running back, throwing passes. You have moments like that, and I think that the creative juices comment makes me think they're going to use him right away. But like I said, that's the kind of thing that's going to stick in people's heads. And Joe Flacco, he's not amazing. He's not a guy who's going to get you 30 touchdowns in a season. Last year he had 18. That's not amazing. 64% completion. Sure, you're happy with that. But like I said, he's not a guy who's going to go out there and do a ton. He just got over 3,000 yards. I don't think that people are going to be begging Joe Flacco to leave or begging for Lamar Jackson. Joe Flacco's not getting run out of town. But I just think that things are going to be a little stale. And this is a team last year who I would think describing as stale isn't that far off. Sure, they were able to score touchdowns. Their defense was really good. The running game was very good. But the passing game, below average. It's a below average passing game, game in, game out. It's actually, if you look at passing yards, they're one of the worst in the NFL. 9-7, which is okay. But, it's a winning record, but it's not amazing. You're not guaranteed to get into the playoffs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think that things are going to get stale. They're going to want something fresh. I know this is the wrong Harbaugh, but this is going to be the kind of thing like his brother who says, hey, now that I've got something fresh and exciting, I'm not turning back. And I'm not saying Joe Flacco is going to get injured, but I just think that you're not going to have that same level of excitement. They're going to see it in the practice field. They know what they can get out of Lamar Jackson. I think they might get into a point if they're like let's say a 6-7 win team and there's 4 games left of the season, they might say, we can get into the playoffs. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to do it. I think Lamar Jackson gives us that spark. That's why I think late season is when we're going to see him come out and see him take this job.
See, I'm on the other side, whereas at this point in the year, at this point right now, I am saying Lamar Jackson will not start a game this season. And I know some people might be like, well, that's kind of weird because Joe Flacco's not going to be here forever. For me, the earliest Lamar Jackson starts a game is next year. And the reason why I say that is the Ravens, to me, didn't draft Lamar Jackson to take over this year. They're not going to have a rookie quarterback come in, and I don't think they're going to be a bad enough team to late in the year say, all right, these are meaningless games. I think that if anything, they're in the hunt all the way through, and at the worst, they have another season like they did last year where it's like, man, if we would have just beat the Bengals,
but that's why I think that they'll make the switch.
Well, and that's why, for me, I don't think the trigger gets pulled this year. That's why I think the trigger gets pulled next year, because if they have another year of, man, we could have made the playoffs, but we were 1 win short, then during next offseason, the questions start to turn. Man, we were really high on Lamar Jackson coming into this season. Man, we saw him in unique packages last year, but when is this guy going to get the start? And it's going to turn into a Lamar versus Joe full-on next offseason, and then it will become a, hey, you know what? Joe Flacco is on a short leash in 2019 because at the end of 2019, the Ravens could get out of his contract. And that is what I think, is if the Ravens miss the playoffs this year by one game, then it'll be a, Lamar didn't start this year. All right, Joe, if you win the job next year, you're on a short leash, because if we're going down the same path, we'll pull you, start Lamar, and then get rid of you after 2019.
Yeah. These mobile quarterbacks are always exciting. And that's something you can't ignore.
And it's exciting and a little bit maybe too hypey when you start seeing like the young Michael Vick. It's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
What I'm saying is it's exciting. You know you can get that excitement. It can spark your team.
Like Tim
Joe
Tebow.
Flacco is not exciting. Joe Flacco, no one's going to be excited about him. And when players start to say these things about Lamar Jackson, and this particular quote is interesting because he's not saying that he's an amazing quarterback. They're talking about his running ability.
You're talking about like the more common.
Yeah, they're talking about him as a wide receiver, him as a running back, him as a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
These different options that he has. But those things are interesting. Now, what I find very interesting as well is I don't think people are saying Harbaugh is on a hot seat, but if this team starts to be in this kind of middle of the road area, they haven't been in the playoffs since 2014. This is a team that needs something to happen. They need some, spark. They need a shot in the arm. To me, if I'm Harbaugh, I'm sitting there going, I don't know that I'm guaranteed I'm coming back next year. I might, if I don't make a playoff this year, I'm another 9-7 team or 8-8 team. I don't know if that's good enough to get me my job back.
Yeah.
I might need to make that switch week 10, week 11, 12, when it's like we're in the hunt, but we're just a little bit outside.
And
I might have to make that exciting switch
and that'll
to
be
make it happen.
Different. If this year...
Well, that's what I'm expecting to see.
Yeah, I'm saying if this year happens and by week 10 we really get stories on like NFL Live and stuff of like, oh, you know what? Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Then my opinion might change.
Well,
it might be like
I don't think we need stories of him being on the hot seat. I'm saying that if this team doesn't make the playoffs next year, there's a very real question of should he be gone? Because it's been a while. That'll be 5 seasons that they haven't been to the playoffs. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this.
Let's say Joe Flacco starts every game this year. They go 9-7 and they miss the playoffs. Do you think the Ravens then give John Harbaugh another year and say, all right, you're on the hot seat? Or do they just fire him at the end of the year without giving him that, like, all right, you're on the hot seat this year kind of a season?
Sure. I don't necessarily know 100%, but I'm leaning more towards the fact of them saying, you've got this coach, or I'm sorry, you've got this player who we think is the future of our franchise. Joe Flacco's fantastic, but he hasn't done anything for us lately. Why didn't you make the change soon enough? I'm getting someone who I believe will work with Lamar Jackson, the future of our team. I think they would just get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm on the other side also, and that's why I like this topic, because usually me and you don't really get into the arguments too much like we do on the fast break. But for me, I'm on the other side of if they go 9-7, then it'll be like a, hey, John, we're not happy.
Sure.
This season, turn it around or you're gone.
Coaches have been fired for better.
Yeah, I look at this organization too, and this front office doesn't seem like the front office that just goes on a whim and goes, well, you're gone, get out of here.
Which is funny because it's a team that, packed it up and left.
Yeah, which is funny because the Browns did do that. But I mean, that to me is how I see this team of like, if he goes 9-7, they miss the playoffs, it'll be like a, hey, John, something needs to change. Then the pressure gets lit. And Joe Flacco, like I said, gets that short leash. And next year, I think 2019 will be the year where we're really dissecting all right, what week is Lamar Jackson starting? Because to me, if I'm looking at my crystal ball, Ravens missed the playoffs this year, 8-8 to 9-7 team.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco gets replaced as the starter sometime in 2019. I'm thinking maybe like a week 5, week 6 kind of thing. Maybe even a week 4 where he gets benched. Lamar Jackson then takes over, never looks back. Joe Flacco no longer a Raven after next year because the Ravens basically take the potential out because Lamar Jackson leads them to the playoffs next year.
I just feel that if you're comparing him to Michael Vick right now, and I know it's not a coach necessarily comparing him to Michael Vick, if you're saying it's your Michael Vick here, you're not waiting. That's not a guy you wait on. You make that change. Joe Flacco's not exciting. He's not going to be that thing. And I don't think this team is bad enough to be a 4-12 team or something like that. They're a team where their floor to me is 6 wins. That's not terrible. There are teams in the NFL that would die to have 6 wins. So I think with Lamar Jackson, I just think they're going to be too excited about him. A lot of it is going to be the preseason. We're really going to have a better idea of what's going to happen in the preseason, because if it doesn't really turn on, then okay, this is Joe Flacco's job. But if he really starts to turn it on, maybe against the second teamers, he's kicking ass out there, people are going to be asking, well, why isn't he the starting quarterback?
Well, and it's interesting too, because the one guy that I compared him to when he got drafted was Teddy Bridgewater. And the reason why I made that comparison was basically not just are they Louisville quarterbacks, but both of them literally got drafted with the same exact pick in the same exact way. A team whose main color is purple traded up into the 32nd pick and drafted them to get the 5th-year option. The only difference is that the quarterbacks that played above Teddy Bridgewater, where he basically didn't start game 1, started game 2 of his rookie season, were Christian Ponder and Matt Castle. The only difference is Lamar Jackson has Joe Flacco in front of him. So that's the only reason why I think it's almost a similar situation to Teddy Bridgewater, except put a year of him not as a starter before we get what Teddy Bridgewater. Hell, it could be the same thing. He just doesn't start this year. We get to 2019, Joe Flacco gets replaced week 1, week 2, and Lamar Jackson gets the job and never looks back.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible that he could wait the extra year. What I'm interested in just thinking, talking about that and talking about those comparison between those two guys, because Joe Flacco is a better quarterback, obviously, than both those
Ponder
guys.
And Castle at that point was not the Matt Castle that we knew.
Matt Castle has never been as good as Joe Flacco is.
He's not a Super Bowl champion.
He's not, but he's also just, he's a guy whose accuracy has only twice been above 60. 3 times been above 60. Joe Flacco has only been below 60 3 times. So they're very opposite of each other in that sense. I just think it really comes down to this. Joe Flacco, there's a reason why he's considered a playoff quarterback, because he turns it on then. In the regular season, he's nothing that exciting for you. I mean, if he's a guy who's only going to get you 3,000 yards again, less than 20 touchdowns, I know there's a team that wants to run the ball more often than throwing the ball, but if that's what you have, it's not good enough. It is not good enough to take you to that next step, especially when, yes, this defense is good, but it's not as good as when it had Ray Lewis. This is not that same team. And a run game becomes a lot better. Look at Carolina when you have a mobile quarterback.
Here's my kind of overall prediction for how this is going to go down. This year, Joe Flacco will start every single game, all 16 for the Ravens. Does Lamar Jackson hit the field? Yes, he does. They will have specific packages and maybe some trick plays for Lamar Jackson. This year will be a learning year for Lamar Jackson. Mainly what's going to happen is, while Joe Flacco's out there starting, Lamar Jackson is going to learn a little bit from RG3, because I find it interesting that this team brings on RG3, then goes ahead and drafts Lamar Jackson. Why not learn from a guy who, RG3 is not an amazing quarterback, but that rookie year, until he got injured, he was really good. Rookie of the year stuff.
I don't buy RG3 is going to be on the season come regular season.
See, I think so. And the reason why I think so is much of the kind of philosophy of back in the day. This was way back. Nowadays, teams usually just carry 2 quarterbacks. Back in the day when we were kids, it would be 3 quarterbacks. You would have your starter, your backup, and then if you had that young quarterback, basically, you're expecting that young guy not to learn from the starter, because the starter doesn't want to teach him anything, because you don't want to have your job taken from you. You're going to learn from the journeyman quarterback, like a Mark Brunell late in his career.
Mark Sanchez,
Mark Sanchez kind of a guy. Like, and that's what I think RG3 will be for this team with Lamar Jackson.
Buy it. Not yet. I don't think of RG3 in that. I think the NFL has always kind of put out there that they don't believe in the mentality and the attitude of RG3. They've always been down on him about that. But
I don't think it'll be an NFL thing. I think it'll be a front office Ravens thing that's going to trust him.
Well, sure. I mean, they're the ones that signed him. Yeah, they're the only ones that were interested in him.
To kind of take Lamar Jackson under his wing, per se, because when you think about it, RG3 and Lamar Jackson, not too much of different quarterbacks rookie years. Like, they're similar quarterbacks, similar skill sets. So I just think that they're going to use him to teach.
I think Lamar Jackson is going to be good enough to secure the number 2 spot very easily, for sure. And this is a team that is going to want those roster spots for other people.
And I'm not saying like an RG3 is going to be above him teaching. It's more going to be
I just don't think there's room on the roster.
And we'll wait to see. I think that they will keep 3 quarterbacks and use RG3 as that mentor behind Joe, because Joe Flacco is going to basically have the Big Ben situation going on, where it's like, I ain't teaching you crap. We were hearing news like 2-3 weeks ago of like, Joe Flacco's not returning Lamar Jackson's calls. What is going on? Well, of course he's not. He doesn't want this kid to take his job.
And he knows it's going to happen.
And he knows it. Like,
he's been better. He's been better about it than Big Ben has.
He probably knows. Well, yeah, he hasn't been outspoken about it like Big Ben has. Big Ben's actually talked to the media about his whole Mason Rudolph thing and what he was going through. At least Joe Flacco hasn't done that. This will be an interesting kind of battled situation, though, as we move forward going into this year, next year. Any final thoughts before we move on into our rankings?
I'm just excited to see how he does in the preseason.
Well, we're going to see a lot of him this preseason because they're not going to play Joe Flacco for a lot of it. So it'll be interesting to see how much play time and what we see from Lamar Jackson in the preseason. This is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below. When will Lamar Jackson start for this Ravens team? Will it be this year? Will it be next year? What are you thinking down below in that comment section? But Mark, it's time to move into what our main meat and potatoes part of the podcast is, and we knew from the beginning we were going to get here. It was going to be one way or another.
Somehow.
We were going to get to talking about kickers for our fantasy football rankings. So what we did is we went from 1 all the way through 16 because we didn't have to rank every single kicker in the National Football League. There's just no way we had to. So much like the defenses, if you're in a 16-team league, these are pretty much the top 16 kickers we are saying you gotta worry about. You need to draft. So we're going to start in this first segment going through 9 through 16, starting at the bottom.
Plus honorable mention.
And plus the honorable mention. I'll get into him first. Phil Dawson of the Cardinals. He got a vote. So he was 15 on mine. Dan Bailey was 16 on both of ours. Because Dan Bailey, I guess, got 2 votes and Phil Dawson got 1. No.
Because Dan Bailey was not even ranked on mine. Yeah. Therefore, because Phil Dawson was not even ranked on mine.
But
therefore,
Phil Dawson
Dan Bailey is
had
better.
a better average. He had an average of 15.
No. But here's the thing. Actually,
15 plus 0.
He didn't have an average of 15 because he could have been 20 on mine. You don't know.
But
we didn't go that far.
Would he have been?
He might have been.
Mark's like, he is now. Just so he's not.
Now he's 32. Get over it.
Phil Dawson, honorable mention from the Arizona Cardinals. But getting into it, number 16, Dan Bailey of the Dallas Cowboys. And number 15, Mason Crosby of the Green Bay Packers. Adam Vinatieri at 14 of the Indianapolis Colts. Graham Gano of the Panthers. He's going to be at number 13. Number 12, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Then at number 11, Ryan Suckup of the Tennessee Titans. Matt Prater at number 10 of the Detroit Lions. And then at number 1, Kai Forbath of my own Minnesota Vikings. So the first thing I want to ask you before we get into specific guys or really specific teams I think we can get into also here, when you were coming up with your ranking for kickers, what kind of was going through your head when you were ranking these guys one over another?
Here's the thing that I look at when I look at kickers. Kickers themselves, I mean, you can really focus on the accuracy of a kicker, or if the kicker has a long leg or a short leg, meaning is he going to kick for 30 yards or is he going to kick for 50 yards? What's better? What's his accuracy better? Close or far away, in the middle? There's a ton of stuff you can look at with kickers. But really, when it comes down to it, most leagues, kickers' points are so barely worth anything.
Unless you have like a Greg Zuerlein.
Or if you're in a league where it's like misses are going to be negative, or you're going to get points per attempt, or if you're 5 points for a 50, 4 for a 40, 3 for a 30, et cetera, et cetera. When you get into leagues that start doing unique things with kickers to purposefully make kickers important, most people's leagues are, you got a point if they kick an extra point, you got 2 if they got a field goal, or something really simple like that. So for me, when it comes to a kicker, what I care about when I'm ranking them for just the general league out there, where I don't know the exact rules of your league, what I am looking at is, how is this offense? Are they going to score a lot of touchdowns? Because that's going to give my kicker a lot of chances to get extra points. And if they're not going to get that, are they at the very least going to be an offense that stalls? I love an offense that stalls, because if you're an offense that stalls, that means my guy gets field goals. That gives me more points. Now, there's that balance there of having the offense that stalls so you get extra points compared to getting touchdowns and essentially being guaranteed to get extra points. You're never guaranteed, but you guys get what I mean. It's a lot easier.
Well, and for me, it was a lot of also what these teams are going through. Because, for example, one of the guys that some might say we have ranked a little bit too low in Harrison Butker, who is 12th on our list.
Well, I got a reason why he's low.
So he was 10 on mine. He was 13 on yours. That's why he ended up at 12. And for me going into this, part of it was the other 9 guys ahead of him, I just like more than him. There was no way he was going to be above a Greg Zuerlein, above a Steven Gostkowski, a Robbie Gould, any of those guys that are in my top 8. The thing that I think is interesting, though, with Butker is, yes, when you're looking at just field goal stats, he was the 3rd most made field goals behind Robbie Gould, who had the most at 39. Actually, it was tied with Greg Zuerlein for 38 at 2. So he was 38 of 42. His longest was a 53-yarder. And if you went through all of his distances, 8 from 8 between 20 and 30, 16 of 17 from 30 to 39, 10 of 12 from 40 to 49, and then 4 of 5 from 50 and beyond.
Yeah.
The thing that I wonder with this team is, A, how is the defense this year going to affect that team? Because they have lost some pieces on that defenses. Because I wonder if the defense is going to let up some scores to where it's like, well, we could have kicked a field goal here, but we really need a touchdown here now.
Or the flip side of, are they going to give up more first downs? Therefore, your kicker doesn't even have the chance to be on the field because the offense isn't on the field.
Well, and then with offense, how is this offense going to look with Patrick Mahomes compared to the game manager of Alex Smith?
And it's very different where I expect Patrick Mahomes to be very boom or bust. When you got a guy like Alex Smith, you're expecting more field goals. With a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who likes to throw it deep, he's going to be a guy who I'm expecting more touchdowns.
Yeah.
Therefore,
touchdowns or no touchdowns, not, we got field goal range installed out.
You're not going to be in field goal range as often, and you're going to get less points with those extra points anyways. Plus the flip side, too, of he's brand new. He played a game against scrubs. We really don't know what we have out of Patrick Mahomes yet. It might take a little bit of a while. And I know you're not as crazy on this because Andy Reid is still there, but they did lose offensive coordinator Matt Nagy.
They did.
Therefore, that might step back this offense as well.
It's not that I know Ricky's not that crazy about it.
You just don't think it's going to be as big of a deal.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Plus, I think that with losing Nagy and Smith, this team will take a step back this year, but and this is more of a team in general, not just for fantasy, they're going to take the step back of, all right, they're not a for sure to win this division. They still can, but it's not like a Chiefs slotted at number 1, that's where they're at. Like, the other teams now have a spot or a chance to upend them.
Yeah.
And for me, that's where Harrison Butker, I was like, I don't know where to really put him. And I figured I'm putting him at 10. He's a top 10 guy because of how many he made. But with this year, what am I really getting out of the Chiefs this year? Another guy looking at that, Adam Vinatieri. I had really low because now this one should have changed, I'll be honest, because today, Andrew Luck throwing an actual football. However,
well, a high school size football.
Yeah, high school size football. However, I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know. I still don't know what kind of Andrew Luck I am going to get week 1. So until I know that answer,
week 1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he's there week 1, I don't know which Andrew Luck I'm going to get. Until I know that answer, I have to rate Adam Vinatieri lower because it's like, you know what?
Well, because it's a risk.
It's a very big risk.
The thing that we've mentioned in other ones, and we always need to mention it because people need to remember, is we're not saying Greg Zuerlein is going to be the number 1 kicker this year. We're saying
that's what I'm saying. That's the number 1 guy I would draft.
To draft him number 1. That's what we're saying. We're saying that Adam Vinatieri, I feel a little bit less of a risk taking Graham Gano over him. That's really what it comes down to, and it's just the risk factors. It's Adam Vinatieri is a solid kicker. He's going to be a good kicker, but who is the quarterback right now? Is that offensive line going to be any good this year? They just lost Frank Gore. How is that going to affect the offense? That matters when you're looking at kickers. Kickers and defenses are two of those positions where more than a lot of the other positions out there that you're drafting, it matters what the rest of the team looks like. Not that it doesn't for a wide receiver or a quarterback, but a wide receiver who's good, they're going to get their catches. A quarterback who's good is going to throw touchdowns. Those things are going to happen, minus the game where they go against that really tough defense and then they don't throw any touchdowns, or they really get shut down because they were double teamed the entire time. But a kicker, a defense, those matter so much about the rest of the team that you can't ignore something like Andrew Luck. You can't really say that just because this guy is on the field, off the field, it doesn't matter. Adam Vinatieri is a good kicker.
Well, and that's why one of the guys, and I want to ask you, do we have Kai Forbath too high? And the reason why I say that is this team, Minnesota, doesn't have Case Keenum like last year. They've got Kirk Cousins. And I'm not saying that, the quarterback is the direct link. People might get that because we talked about with Butker and Mahomes, how that might affect. But just looking last year, you had Dustin Hopkins, who took some kicks for Washington last year, 14 of 17 overall. And then Nick Rose, who also took some kicks for Washington last year, he went 10 of 11. So if we combine the two, that's 24 total made field goals with 28 attempts overall. And Kai Forbath was a guy last year, as I scroll up trying to find him, he was a guy I believe that, there he is. Yeah, he had 38 attempts. So if we look at the Washington ones, they had 10 less attempts than him last year. Do we maybe have him too high at 9 with the Kirk Cousins signing?
I don't know.
Maybe Kirk Cousins gets more touchdowns.
I mean, Kirk Cousins, I would expect to get more touchdowns than a Case Keenum would. Especially
plus Dalvin Cook comes back.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, especially now with this run game too, it's gonna be a lot of question mark. But the run game potentially does allow a little bit more balance. The thing that I think doesn't concern me about ranking Kai Forbath that high is that Minnesota defense is such a good defense that I'm sure the offense is going to have opportunities. So where even if it is more touchdowns, the quantity of extra points should still be higher because this is a team that's going to have the ball very often. The flip side, though, with the Vikings, that maybe Kai Forbath will have opportunities to make those field goals because they are going to face some tough defenses. They do have some tougher defenses in their own division, and they're going to be playing a tough division this year as well. So we talked about that when we talked about their defenses having to go against difficult teams. They're going to be facing some difficult teams. They're going to be in some shootouts as well. So that's going to really force some high-scoring games. I imagine. I mean, we don't really know because we haven't seen Kirk Cousins in the purple and gold just yet.
Except for, like, the practice field.
Doesn't count. Not real purple and gold. But, so there's still a lot to see with that. Kai Forbath, I mean, that's one of those challenging ones because this offense is going to be so different. And Pat Shurmur's not that guy who's going to be leading this offense, coaching-wise. That's going to change some things as well. Are we going to see a more Philadelphia Eagles-style offense, or what's that going to look like this year? There's a lot of questions to where for Kai Forbath, I really just kind of shove him in the middle because when we're talking about where we gamble with these guys, he's somebody who I think will be good, but I'm not positive about how good that's going to be.
Which is, if we're looking at Philly last year, Elliott only had 31 total kicks. He went 26 of 31 last year. So that's kind of in par with
and
that 28
his quarterback
number.
got injured.
Yeah,
too,
I mean,
so it could have been a little higher.
What's the guy in this 9 through 16 that I know the first three guys I kind of rattle off?
Yeah.
Who's the guy that you're thinking about that you're like, you know what? We got to talk about him.
A guy I'm not sure completely how to look at is Mason Crosby with the Green Bay Packers. We have him fairly low. And
years ago, he would have been top 8 easily.
Well, he definitely slipped. I mean, you look at his just field goal percentage. 2015, it was 85, 85.7, 86.7 in 2016. 2017, big dip, 78.9. That is not that great for a kicker.
No.
You're not that happy. 8-8 when it was close at 20 to 29, 2 of 4 from the 30 to 39, 4 of 4, 40 to 49, and then 1 of 3, 50 plus. And he's never been a 50 plus yard kind of guy. It's never been his strong suit. But he's got more years of like 5 and 7, 4 and 7, 4 and 5. It's not that often that he's only 33%. He's at least half or above most of these times. I just don't know, and especially with Aaron Rodgers being healthy, assumedly this year, I don't really know how to feel about Mason Crosby right now. Is he on this decline? Will he pick it back up? Because 2012, he was only 63%. He shot up to his highest ever at 89% the following year.
Last year was an anomaly for me with Mason Crosby. The reason why Andrew Luck was injured. Or not Andrew Luck.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. I've got Andrew Luck on the mind.
Of course, he's throwing high school-sized footballs.
But you look at last year, only 19 field goals overall. Like, this offense wasn't the same once Rodgers went down.
And you also had some receiver injuries and stuff in recent memory. So,
but also, he was even down in extra points. And he had the lowest... It was the first time ever in his career that he failed to score over 100 points in a season. And I feel like if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, if he comes back, we're going to see more of a resurgence. And I say that lightly. Like, when you see resurgence, people go, oh, he's going to be a really good kicker. I think Mason Crosby, I keep saying the wrong names right now. Mason Crosby.
At least you're in the right division.
Is going to be a kind of, for me, the reason I had him lower was, I'm like, if I'm at 16, I guess I'll draft him. But he may be a guy for me if I'm in like an 8-man league where it's like, crap, I need a kicker. Well, I really don't want to get rid of Zerline, so I'm going to bench Zerline. Yeah, I guess for this week the matchup is good. He's playing the Bears, so I guess I'll put him in. Like, well,
that's a risk then. He's not going to get anything.
It's just a little
bear
jab
down,
at you.
baby.
But I mean, that's where I may see Crosby is like, oh, if you're in a 16-man league, well, crap, the first 15 kickers are taken, I might have to take Mason Crosby. But if you're in like an 8-man league, 10-man league, it's more of a, well, where's my kickers by, and does his matchup fit my kickers by?
Yeah. And speaking of the Bears, when I side note, when I was at the Cubs game the other day, I'm not a Cubs fan for anybody in Chicago.
You were
who
a
might
bleacher
be
bum, though.
I was in the bleachers. It's quite an experience. There's no rules in the bleachers.
I'll be honest. I can't stand. Like, this is a side note. I can't stand the bleachers. This is a little bit of my dad and me. I can't stand the bleachers at Wrigley because it's not connected to the actual ballpark.
It kind of is.
You can't get into like the main concourse.
Yeah, you can.
You can now?
Yeah.
They changed that?
Yeah.
It used to be where you're just in the bleachers.
You got to basically walk all the way to the end and you're barely there. But yeah, you can get in.
Okay.
You can. But anyways, I'm not a Chicago Cubs fan, so I'm not going to wear a White Sox jersey or anything like that. I'm not an asshole.
Yeah. Thank you.
Usually, I'll wear a Blackhawks thing or something. I decided I'm going to wear
shirt.
my Mitch Trubisky jersey.
Okay.
Because I'm like, this is good, Chicago is pretty excited about Mitch Trubisky based on the Bear Downs and the Trubisky or True God or anything like that I'm getting by going
you probably
there.
Got a lot of
I didn't get any goats, but I got a few True Gods out there.
True Gods.
Yeah, so people are excited about the Bears this season. When you mentioned the Bears defense, that's what reminded me of it. Because not like we got a Bears kicker ranked right now because there's nothing there to rank.
Because I'm the same way with, and this is off topic from the kickers a little bit, I'm the same way with Sox games.
Yeah.
What I'll usually do is most of my T-shirts are black in some way. So, like, this shirt, I'll wear this to a Sox. Like, if I'm going with Dave, I'll just wear this to a Sox game.
Some people won't notice the difference.
Black and white, it fits right in, and I'm not going to be an asshole. Now, if it's a Cubs-Sox game, that's different. I got to rep my Cubby blue if the Cubs are in the game. But any final guys in this kind of region of our rankings that you think that we haven't hit that we should?
Yeah, the only other one I'm going to put out there is people might be a little mad at us for putting Dan Bailey at 16.
I knew you were going to bring him up.
Well, because I expect the Cowboys have to be better this year.
The guy
right?
we both had at 16. Like, neither of us had him higher than the other. We both had him at 16.
But the Cowboys have to be better this year, right? That's the assumption.
Maybe.
I mean,
it depends. Are they going to re-sign Greg Hardy?
The Cowboys are a mystery to me in a lot of ways because they had one really good year with Dak and Zeke. Then Zeke had his suspension issues looming over him for a good chunk of the year.
They also got film on Dak Prescott.
And then I was going to say, Dak Prescott gets in his second year. Is his sophomore slump? Does he get out of it? Does he just become not a good quarterback? It's a big question mark right there to where I think, even though I love Zeke,
is it Jason
and Zeke
Garrett?
can lead this.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Jason Garrett should have been gone a while ago. But even though Zeke can carry this team on his own, much the way Adrian Peterson did not that long ago when, what's his name, with a P? Your favorite guy.
You're talking about Minnesota?
Your old quarterback, yeah.
What's
that guy's name?
It was not Dante.
No. It was too recent.
You said with a P, I'm thinking Cordero Patterson.
They had, now I'm just curious. But anyways.
Because we had Teddy Bridgewater,
before
Tavares Jackson, Christian Ponder.
Ponder.
Christian Ponder.
That's why I got the P. Anyways, so even though Zeke can just carry that team very far, like Adrian Peterson did, your team, still, if you don't have a good quarterback, and we really don't know if Dak's going to bounce back this year or not, even though he wasn't terrible last year, I just don't know how to rank Dan Bailey. I'm not confident drafting Dan Bailey, or even really wide receivers on the Dallas Cowboys.
Ryan Suckup, too, is a guy where I don't know what to expect from this Titan offense, fantasy-wise.
New coach, so that's going to help.
With Vrabel coming in, and then the offensive coordinator was the quarterback's coach with the Rams. I just don't know how that's going to affect Ryan Suckup fantasy-wise. That's where I kind of had him, where we slotted him more in that 11, 12 range. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think about these kickers down below in the comment section. Who are you excited for? Who are you not excited for? Who do we have too low? Who do we not have high enough? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. But Mark, let's finish up the rankings 1 through 8. And if you're just joining us on YouTube with the individual segments, first off, welcome into the Onside Kick. And we are continuing our kicker rankings for fantasy football. If you haven't seen our 9 through 16, go and check those out. But let's go through 8 through 1, starting off at number 8, Chris Boswell, the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then at number 7, Eagles kicker Jake Elliott. At number 7, the Saints kicker Will Lutz. Then at number 5, the 49er former Bear Robbie Goodasgold coming in at number 5. Then at number 4, the Ravens kicker Justin Tucker. Then we've got Matt Bryant, the kicker from the Falcons, at number 3. Steven Gostkowski, kicker for the New England Patriots, at number 2. And then Greg Zuerlein, kicker for the Rams, at number 1. And the first thing I want to start off with is we had a tie at number 1. We had to settle that. And we settled with Greg Zuerlein because I think
3 ties in this top.
We did, but you conceded to me. Let me win the Greg Zuerlein battle. I want to ask you why you have Steven Gostkowski ranked above Greg Zuerlein.
For me, it's pretty simple. I trust the Patriots more than I trust the Rams.
Okay.
And yes, the Rams were one of the highest scoring offenses last year, but the Patriots were one of the best offenses as well. So there's plenty of touchdowns going on. But my question is, Jared Goff was not a rookie last year, but this is the first real year where people had tape on him. Are we going to see a noticeable decrease in his production now that different teams out there, their defenses are going to say, yeah, now we know what to expect out of this offense. McVay was new. Now we know what's going on with the Rams. Are the Rams going to take a step back or even closer to a step down to reality? I know that the Patriots are going to be good. I always know the Patriots are going to be good. I always know that Steven Gostkowski is going to be a good kicker. There's no doubt about that ever in my entire mind. The entire mind that I have. I don't know why I said it weirdly like that.
Your entire mind.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I don't know.
Because it's a hive mind.
Yeah.
You got a hive mind up
It
here.
is. Me, my dog, and my wife.
It's all just in here.
Exactly. So that's for me why I have Gostkowski a little bit higher. It's that sure thing kind of bet.
Can I be blatantly honest?
Sure.
If you draft either of these guys as the number one kicker, you're going to have a good year.
Yeah.
You're going to have a good year from your kicker. Like, for me, the only reason I slightly put Greg Zuerlein ahead of Steven Gostkowski is if we look at last year, I expect the numbers to be virtually the same at the end of this year, where they're both going to have the similar number of extra points because both their offenses score the ball. They're both going to have the similar number of kicks inside 1 yard to 39 yard. The slight average I give Zuerlein is kicking from distance. And the only reason I give him that is because he might have to kick. Like last year, you look at the numbers. 21 kicks inside 39 yards for Zuerlein, 25 for Gostkowski, and Gostkowski was perfect. Didn't even miss inside of 40 yards, 39 and below. Then you go 40 to 49, 12 of 12 from Zuerlein, 8 of 11 for Gostkowski. Then the above 50, and that's what I'm looking at. Where Gostkowski was perfect, 4 for 4. That's great. But Zuerlein hit 2, he had 3 more attempts and hit 2 of those attempts. He only missed 1 from beyond 50 yards. So for me, that's where I give the slight edge to Greg Zuerlein of, all right, this kicker's going to get slightly more kicks from beyond 50, and depending on what your league does, most of the leagues that I've been in award you for longer kicks. And I'm looking at that, and I'm going, Greg Zuerlein's got the boot, and he's going to make more kicks beyond 50, which may help me out more so than Gostkowski. Although if you draft Gostkowski number 1, it's not like your kicker is going to be a bad kicker throughout the year.
Yeah, it certainly could help you. And like I said, you never really know what people are doing. I've been in leagues that have done both, that have given you more, and some leagues where there's nope, guy kicks it good, and you get a point. That's it. And yeah, like you said, it really doesn't matter that much. Either one of these guys are going to be very successful for you.
Here's the thing I want to ask you is, what were you thinking when you put Robbie Gould as low as you did? Because here's what's going through my mind.
Sure.
Is basically you look at his year last year. Every single game up until week 10, he only had the most he ever kicked in a game was 5. And then besides that, most of them were ones. Like from 6 to 10, he had 1 make a game for those games. Then after the bye, so week 12 on, basically, spoiler alert, once Jimmy Garoppolo was that quarterback, like the last 5 games of the year, 15, 17, 24, 8, 11. Like, for me, I feel like looking at your rankings, maybe I have him too high at 3, but I feel like Robbie Gould is going to be a top 5 kicker just because of Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback of the Niners and what position he's going to put this offense in.
To me, it's another one of these. One, I'm
Boomer
pumping
bust.
the brakes on the hype of the 49ers a little bit. But 2, it's we've seen, sure, what was he, 6-0? People
Hasn't
have
lost a game, baby.
Sure. He'll lose one this year.
Hasn't lost a
He'll
game.
lose a
No,
few.
he's going to go 16-0, baby. 19-0.
18-1.
Super Bowl for the Niners.
Perfect
19-0.
season, baby. 18-1. I really expect that step down, that hype to come crashing in. And I don't. and like I said, it's not a ranking, it's a draft, where I feel like I can draft these guys. And for me, I just don't have that much confidence because people love Jimmy Garoppolo, but the supporting cast around him still is not that great. This team still isn't that good. This is a team that very well could have been 0-16 last year. They probably could have been without Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, the flip side of this is going to be, of course, that I actually think that this is an offense that might stall quite often. And nothing against Jimmy Garoppolo or anything like that, but just like I'm saying, the supporting cast isn't amazing out there. So it might be someone that helps.
Kicks if they stall in the right spot.
Exactly. It might help Robbie Gould. The flip side, though, that I always got to put a little bit of my own bias out there is I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I've seen the greatest days of Robbie Gould.
You've seen
and
the
I've
worst
seen
days.
the worst. And, he looks like he's back to old form, and that's great and good for him in that case. But part of me is going to, of course, be a little bit worried as a Chicago Bears fan that he might go back to that missing pretty much every other kick.
I mean, let's be completely honest. When Robbie Gould left, because last year, if we're looking just stats, he had the best percentage by like 0.1.
Yeah.
And he made the most field goals last year by 1. But when he left town, and I got to look up what year that was because I am not a Bears fan.
2015.
That was 2015. I remember basically it seemed like Chicago was going to riot. Like, what? Why are we getting a Robbie Gould? Why are we getting rid of him?
Because he was not good.
Is this a decision that we have to make?
2014 was the bad year.
Yeah, and then 2015 he kind of had a better year. And then they just let him go. But I mean, with Robbie Gould, I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be, I know you're saying like, oh, I don't want to hype up the Niners too much, which I get it. We might be overhyping the Niners, but Jimmy Garoppolo don't lose. Like, the true question for me is, this is when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. You know how we talk on the NBA side of, or we don't talk, it's basically we listen, people like us, the other ones talk when they say LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Both me and you know the truth. We know the truth that MJ's always better than LeBron James. Of course. But for Jimmy Garoppolo, it's, who am I better than? It's me or Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, 18-1. Jimmy Garoppolo going to go 19-0. He's going to bring this team to the promised land. I'm joking there. They will be a lot better though, and that's going to help Robbie Gould.
When I look at Robbie here, and I'm looking at his field goals, he's had a weird thing go on in the last couple of years.
Good year, bad year?
No. The last couple of years, when he was with New York for 10 games, I mean, he only kicked 10 times, but he made all 10 of them, 100%. Last year, he got 95% of his field goals. That's not sustainable. So people are going to look at that and go crazy about it, but a kicker's not going to be that good. If a kicker is above 90%, that is like a Hall of Fame kicker out there.
I mean, on average, he's in upper 80s. He's like an 86, 87.
And that's good. Yeah,
kicker.
Robbie Gould is a good kicker. He's the best, one of the best kickers in Chicago ever. But I'm saying that people are going to look at 100%, 95% and be like, this is number one, of the kickers. That's not sustainable. That doesn't continue happening year after year.
This is how I view Robbie Gould in your kicker draft strategy. Because of the year he had last year, because of what I expect the offense to take a step forward under Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo, although it might not be a 95 yet again, I almost feel fantasy-wise, depending on how the draft's going, all right, I don't need a Gostkowski. I don't need a Zerline. Would it be great to have one? Yes. But after what I saw in those last 5 games of only one single digit and at least getting double digits in the other 4 of those games to end the year, I would feel confident going, all right, I'm not going to be the first one to bite on a kicker. I don't even think most people are going to have Robbie Gould third. So what I'm doing is I'm buying my time. I'm finding that, all right, I'm hitting off other positions. And then it's like, all right, that third kicker went off the board. I don't want to lose my guy. I'm going to take Robbie Gould and not necessarily have to bite the bullet
and it would
on
be
a
a bad
Zerline,
idea.
on a Gostkowski.
And that's the thing with kickers. People,
because I had him as my
kind of
third.
overdue.
I had him as my third. I would take him 3. I just don't know if everyone's going to value him as that third
and
best
people
off
will
the board.
overrate their kickers and will reach for them. The other thing I want to put out there, and it's not 100% because of the fact that Shanahan was there last year.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Garoppolo was successful last year. But they say that Kyle Shanahan's offense is very difficult to learn. It is not an easy offense. That's why it took Matt Ryan an entire season to learn it.
But Matt Ryan, he is not no Tom Brady, and the closest thing we've probably seen to Tom Brady is a Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'm calling BS on that shit.
He had learned under Tom Brady.
Notice I say BS and then on that shit.
He learned under Bill Belichick.
Meaning he watched Tom Brady play and goes, I wish Tom would help me one of these days.
I don't want to say it, but I will. I find it funny that two of the better quarterbacks in the league, Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Garoppolo, did their starting quarterback help them out? Not really. They watched them. Aaron Rodgers, he watched Brett Favre, and he turned into a pretty good quarterback.
Sure,
I think
he's
a pretty good quarterback.
He's an okay quarterback. I would concede that he is an okay quarterback. I would concede that he is at least average.
The Super Bowl champion, Mark.
But anyways, a one-time Super Bowl champion, correct.
Only once.
And he's no Eli Manning.
Yeah, all you need is one,
two.
Though.
But anyways, to say what I'm saying is I don't think anyone would say Matt Ryan is a bad quarterback.
He's no Eli
And
Manning.
I don't know anybody would say, I don't think anybody would say Matt Ryan's Eli Manning.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone would say that Matt Ryan is dumb either. It took him a whole season to learn that offense.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, he has a head start because he had those 6 games. But I wonder if it'll be a little bit of time learning this full thing for him that maybe slows him down a little bit.
At this point, I would say...
Which will, of course, potentially help or harm Robbie Gould.
The only reason I'm saying no is because
you bought in the hype?
Well, not just that. It's also... This is year 2. I know it hasn't been a complete full year since he's been traded, but... Let's be honest. By this time, you should have some sort of a better grasp of this offense.
Well, yeah, you should have a better grasp. It doesn't mean you completely know the thing.
Yeah, you're not going to be a master genius, but you shouldn't be fumbling and bumbling out there.
And there's also the fact, too, that when you got a guy who's traded in, had a week or maybe 2 weeks before he started playing, they don't unleash the entire offense on him.
It's because he's not Rex Grossman. They don't unleash the dragon,
exactly.
baby.
You say, here's some plays that we know you can be successful with. The following week, here's 5 more plays. I'm underplaying it a little bit. But you do that.
Who's another guy you think we got to hit in this top 8?
Another one that I would say is the Falcons kicker with Matt Bryant.
I had him a lot lower than you did.
You did, and I wonder with this. I mean, I had him at 3. He was my number 3. He was your number 5. Are you a little down on the Falcons' offense
in general? Yeah. I mean, with me, the whole thing is, so with their offense altogether, it's, they've got Julio Jones. Yeah, they've got Matt Ryan.
Julio Jones who wants a new contract.
Exactly. There is that. But it's like, they've got these big names, but the thing I find the most interesting is, yes, they added Calvin Ridley, but really it's just with the loss of Taylor Gabriel, I wonder what this offense is going to do and if they're going to be able to take a next step under the Steve Sarkisian offensive model. So for me, it's like, all right, he's a top 5. Like, I'll pick him in the top 5 of kickers, but really there are 4 other ones with the Zerlines, the Gostkowskis, the Gold, and even Justin Tucker, who's got some golden pipes as well.
Yeah.
I'll take those guys over a Matt Bryant.
Yeah, I think just with the Falcons, I do trust the Falcons. And even part of it is to, people were upset because Matt Ryan took a step back a little bit. He wasn't getting as many touchdowns, as many yards, things like that. But that's good for a kicker, because he's still going to be successful and get you nearby. Matt Bryant gets to kick it. So this is another one of my stalling type of offenses where I'm all right with that because that makes my kicker better. I don't expect the Falcons to get as many touchdowns, and that's fine by me because Matt Bryant's going to be there. If I'm drafting him as my kicker, I want him then, of course, to be that guy. And he's a guy who I don't think you're going to have to reach. Zerline and Gostkowski, people are going to reach for him, and you're going to be like, this is a round or 2 too early. Why are you drafting him in the 12th? We don't need to worry about these quarterbacks just yet, or these kickers just yet.
One guy I want to ask you about, because you had him a little bit higher than I did, but you had him in your top 5. I had him at 7. What's going on in your head with Will Lutz and this Saints offense?
The Saints offense is a little bit more balanced nowadays, which I think helps a kicker. Because when it's not just, Drew Brees throwing for 5,000 yards in the season.
But the defense still can't tackle the right guy.
That's okay.
Gotcha.
If anything, that helps if you have that play, because that drive ended pretty fast then, and we got the ball back.
Well, that ends the game.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the ball back.
Well, in my theory, I'm all right with getting the ball back in this case if it's going to work for us.
We want the ball, we're going to score.
Whatever works. I want the ball just somewhere where the kicker can kick it and give me some points. But in this case, I'm all right with this. It slows down it a little bit. It's not all on Drew Brees to just score touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
Yeah.
Now we can get some field goals. Now we can get that a little bit. And I really like the Saints offense. I don't think anything about the Saints really got worse. Saints are just a better team this year.
The only question mark this Saints offense has is, and this isn't going to affect Lutz in any way, I would say, but it's the Mark Ingram injury. They're not injury, the suspension. So it's really, the first 4 games, the offense has a question mark. But I don't see that being like, Mark Ingram's not out there. That's going to be less points.
If anything,
for
people
Lutz.
are going to be scared of him. And he's a good guy you can get a little bit later.
Maybe they stall a little bit, and that leads to some field goals in those first 4 games.
And there's also a thing that needs to be said when it comes to kickers, and this is my rule, my theory, is if you can convince your commissioner to set it up.
So if I can convince you.
If you can convince me, which you can't convince me for this one, because that's not how our draft works.
Okay.
If you can convince me to let you not even draft a kicker.
Okay.
I say go for it.
Well, if we didn't do the draft how we usually do it, which is a unique way for those who are new, I would just be like, do I have to draft one?
And I would let you not. I've always said there's no reason why you should be forced to draft a kicker.
It's like, can I just pick one up after the draft after I decide who I don't want on my team?
Exactly. I'd rather get one more running back on a team that it has a big question mark and maybe one of these guys steps up.
Would you let someone run the whole year without a kicker?
Yeah. If you can convince me why.
Do you think that would be a smart business model?
If you can convince me why you don't need a kicker, I'll let you do it.
I'm not saying get rid of the spot in the starting lineup. I'm saying, like...
just don't draft one.
All right, I'm not drafting one, and all year I'm going to keep my kicker spot open. Like, would that be even smart? That's like...
No.
If you get like a Zerline, that's at least 10 points you're losing each game.
There's the theory that works out there. People always think that you have to have all your positions out there. But if it comes to Monday night, and you're up 98 to 97, and your quarterback's got to go out there, bench him.
Yeah.
Why are you playing the quarterback? He could throw 3 interceptions and no touchdowns or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're negative points.
And how I look at kickers, especially the ones towards the top, like the Gostkowskis and the Zerlines I'll use, I always saw them, like Janikowski back in the day, I always saw it as these guys are going to get you at least 10. So you're starting each game with a 10-point cushion. Anything above 10 is just extra points for you. So like if you scored 15... you got 5 more points than you were expecting that day because they were just automatic for at least double digits each and every game.
There's a lot of kickers out there where you're expecting 3 or 4 points.
Yeah.
And, it might not matter.
Especially during bye weeks in deep leagues.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the rare one that the MVP league did like 2 years ago where we had 20 teams. We had the MVP team and 19 other teams.
Yep.
That means there's only 12 quarterbacks or 12 kickers for you to pick from.
Yeah. And here's the thing with that, too, is the fact of, you know what? You're always going to be better off having someone, not always, but more times than not, you're going to be better having someone on your roster. But like you said,
if I'm up by 1 going into Monday night, I'm benching my kicker because if he misses, I'm losing.
Exactly. You don't want to risk it because Murphy's Law, if it can go, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So, yeah, you don't mess with that. I just want to throw it out there. Convince your commissioner to not let you draft a kicker, because really, if you're at the end of the, if you're like most people, we're going to wait till the very last round to draft your kicker, because there's really no reason to draft one before that unless you're getting Zerline
unless you
or
want a
Gostkowski.
Zerline or a Gostkowski. Unless you're like Sean, because Sean's a guy that wants Tom Brady, wants Gronkowski, wants Gostkowski.
Of course,
he wants to link all the Patriots together so he can win, and then he doesn't win the championship.
Of course.
Trade me Leonard Fournette again. I'll have a good year.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's the same thing with defenses where people used to be like, I got to get that Steelers defense, so I'm going to draft them in round 8 just because, and everyone goes, all right, I wasn't going to draft a defense for like 3 more rounds, but yeah, sure.
Well, it's like the famous story I like to tell where we were doing a fantasy draft and it was the second pick, and I think it was one of the quarterbacks the guy wanted. He went, oh, screw you. I'm taking the Eagles defense at 3. And we're like, all right.
Yeah, have
like
fun.
they were the number 1 defense that year, but it's like, all right, go ahead. Like, we're not going to stop you because he ended up dropping them 3 weeks in.
Exactly. Have fun doing that. That's fine by me. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting to look at these things because the difference between kicker number 8 to kicker number 12 to 16 or whatever, really they're not that different. It's only really distinct when you're in this like top 5 range of what these differences between some of these kickers are.
Really, it's like top 2, then 3 through 5, and then just down the line.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously with these two, a lot of it's matchup dependent. When your team is going to, or when the kicker's team is going to play a harder defense, if they're going to play a cover 2 defense,
could mean there's more chances for them to kick some field goals.
Yeah, you would love to have a kicker go against a cover 2 defense. Bend don't break. That idea is fantastic for you.
Hey man, you know that fairly well, being a Chicago Bear fan.
You're okay with giving up 3 points.
Tampa 2, baby.
Give up 3 points all day. As long as you're scoring touchdowns, it doesn't matter. You know, and a lot of it is that kind of dependent area. And when it comes to kickers, I don't know. Maybe I should care a little bit more about kickers for my personal fantasy teams, but a lot of times I sit there and I'm like, if anything in our league, we really should care about kickers.
You know what? There is a reason then, because have you ever, since you've joined our fantasy league, like now you're the commissioner of it, because I gave it up because screw it, I don't want that anymore. Since you joined our fantasy league, have you ever won it?
No, I have not won it.
Have you ever won a fantasy league?
Yes.
Like actual fantasy league, not like that everyone gave up.
Yep.
Okay. I just find it funny.
I am a champion.
I find it funny that NAR's like the Mark Weber model of how to run a team.
My team is not that great.
I don't even remember the last time you made the playoffs in our league.
Well, there's a funny story about that. I've not made the playoffs
in our league. I don't think so.
But of course, I also am a fan
because you went through the whole history of our league, too.
I know the entire history of this league that we have. It's insane.
I'm a champion.
You are
a former champion.
You are. You're on the trophy.
That was my... that was the year that Dave traded me Gronkowski, and I was the Gronk.
Here's the thing that no matter what always happens, except for like, you know, the couple times I've won leagues. My team is always amazing for about 6 weeks. Dominate everybody and then fall off.
And you just
everybody gets hurt. Everybody gets hurt. All of a sudden, Eli Manning's my quarterback.
At least
and we're screwed.
At least you're not Dave. Dave has had a key injury every single year since Tom Brady got injured against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Every single time he's had somebody of a key significant spot. Hell, he had Nate Keating go down when Nate Keating was his starting kicker week 1.
Yeah. I also have a tendency to score some of the highest points, but also give up the highest points. Yeah. I have a tendency to do that as well in fantasy leagues.
I mean, with me, I have already decided, since you have bought our league a trophy, which I do not have yet, but I will. I will have that trophy. When I win it,
currently lives at the Lions guy's house
when
for
I
the
win
rest
it,
of the offseason. When
I win it this year, you know what I'm doing the entire... Because here's the thing I didn't ask you with how the trophy works.
Yeah.
So let's say I win it.
It's like the Stanley Cup.
I get it all the way until the next Super Bowl, right? So even through the regular season?
You get it till the draft.
Oh, okay.
You give it back at the draft. Because then it's a new season. It's no longer your trophy.
I want to ask you this, and this is me on the internet asking you this.
On the internet.
I want a petition for when I win it this year to, with the commissioner's basically approval, is that even throughout the season, because I would still technically be the defending champion, I want it on every onside kick, just sitting right there until I lose it. If I do lose it,
maybe not.
I just want it right, like, because I'll bring it every podcast. Right, like that's my little plan. When I win it this year, when it's
a beautiful
mine,
trophy,
I'm putting it right here.
You've seen
and I'm
the picture.
Bringing,
it's beautiful.
I'm bringing it right here for these guys to know that their champ is on the podcast. The champ is in.
This is why part of me wanted to go the extra step and also buy rings. Like 10 of them.
The
so
thing
that way
I
people can wear
wanted
them.
was a belt. I wanted like a WWE type belt.
Yeah, I like the trophy's cool.
I know. I'm a WWE belt guy. Bring that in, wear it. I mean, rings would be awesome too, but that's more of like a Ruxin thing. Where
because then you could wear the ring. And I was actually going to do it and also, like, I was going to just buy like 10 of them, but then I have one for each year.
But then I'd have to wear 10 rings and like Michael Jordan,
9, because Mike has one.
My hands would get too heavy. Oh, I'm talking about starting this year. I'd have 10 rings and it'd just be like, I'm too... Oh, man, my hands are too heavy. I don't want to wear 10 rings. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below about our kicker rankings down below in the comment section.
Football. Whatever.
The camera's probably going to die soon. That's why I went ahead and got off with this little housekeeping here at the end. Make sure to check out patreon.com/MostValuable Podcast. If you want to help support the channel, that is how you do it. Make sure to check out the link down below in the description for our store. If you want to buy a beautiful MVP t-shirt, make sure to check out mostvaluablepodcast.com where you can get your MVP each and every day. And then make sure to go on Apple Podcasts and iTunes to give the Onside Kick a 5-star rating and type in a little something about why people should listen to the Onside Kick. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Want to thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.